Hello to all of those who have come upon this channel at this point in time, during this hour, on this day. Today, the energy that is coming forth is embodied in the archetype of Hermes, or Mercurius, if you will. The archetype of this energy specifically talks in terms of communication, timelines, messages, and even divine notices for humanity. As the Hermes archetype, the knowledge that is coming through for today's channeling specifically has to do with the upcoming 5 to 10 years and what they will expose and bring forth for humanity. The reason there has been such a great push in the spiritual and channeling community for individuals to find their own power and to gain the knowledge and skills to be able to transmute energies on their own time and on their own schedule without having to rely on spiritual teachers, gurus, pastors, priests, and so on, is because we are now, and with we I mean all archetypal energies, very aware of the incredible speed by which human consciousness is evolving, and therefore the incredible speed at which human consciousness needs to start taking responsibility for its reality creating powers. When it comes to the next 5 to 10 years, much has been said already through other channels and other prophetic voices in your mainstream as well as in your more hidden communications. But generally, the future that is shown tends to be a composite of all timelines combined into the most probable scenario. In other words, depending on how well humanity is able to take responsibility of its own reality creation powers now, things could be easier or more difficult as we move forward in the next 5 to 10 years. Most of it lies in your hands in terms of you allowing yourself to be more authentically yourself, you allowing yourself to save yourself instead of waiting for someone or something else to save you externally. That is why it is encouraged across so many channels and accounts as well as books that humanity start taking charge, start finding ways to shape their own reality, and to choose the lives that they actually want instead of the lives that are expected of them by society. We are here, or specifically the Hermes archetype energy is here to speak on the next 5 to 10 years. Is humanity, if humanity is ready to take responsibility and in the best case scenario starts trusting itself more rather than outside leaders, forces, or powers. In the next 5 to 10 years, what we'll be seeing is a great decline in your traditional institutions of faith, education, and politics. These are all interconnected and were designed to be codependent on each other, which is why the decline of the West, or even the fall of the American Empire, as some see it, is so radical in terms of visuals, impacts, and numbers. Think of the education system, for instance. During the pandemic, about 20% of universities had to shut down and close due to not being able to run on debt anymore. As of now, departments across the United States are closing, many of these being located in the humanities and arts. Universities will continue to close, fall into debt, declare bankruptcy. So will K-12 schooling systems. And as these systems fall, a lot of the hidden agendas and scandals come to light because there is no more money to protect the secrecy around a lot of the systemic abuses happening in these systems. Abuses not necessarily in terms of psychological or physical forms, but in terms of abuses against the mind, abuses against creative energy and authenticity. Many of you are already aware of these things, which is why you have exited traditional education pathways and found your own challenges in terms of certifications or even trade practices, creating your own businesses, creating your own schools, finding ways to teach your children differently. This will continue happening in the United States especially, and ripple out into other countries as well. Additionally, when we look into the institutions of faith, what we will see is a general disorientedness. If these religious institutions were truly as sacred and set apart as they claim to be, why is the world seemingly only becoming worse? Why is society seemingly only becoming more selfish and self-centered? What did these institutions miss? That not only is humanity in full corruption, but also people leaving these institutions in throes. While some pendulum their way back into religious institutions, most exit for the rest of their lives. Now these faith institutions must self-analyze and understand where they have missed the mark, where they might have overlooked the essence of their teachings in favor of power, money, and institutional influence. Therefore, these faith institutions and religious organizations will face great peril as questions arise that they have ignored and refused to answer. For accountability will shine a light brightly in their faces. And for those who are not ready to take responsibility for their actions, these institutions will fall, be left behind and forgotten. For those who walked in sincerity, even if some of the teachings were misconstrued or misunderstood, those will be rewarded with greater enlightenment and understandings of which paths to take and how to better serve and love each other and those outside of their faith communities. Moving on to the institutions of politicians and politics. People in the next 5 to 10 years will stop believing in names just because they are ranked high in the hierarchy of power. In fact, it is already very clear that power is equated with corruption across the mainstream understanding. Is this always the case? Certainly not. But there is a reason that only specific types of people were able to gather that amount of power and resources. As humanity's consciousness evolves, these resources start to crumble, flowing through these powerful individuals' fingers like sand. They will not be able to grasp, hold on, and capture these resources, whether they be human, monetary, earthly resources, spiritual resources. Oftentimes, humanity will ask itself how much more it needs to suffer for things to be cleared up. The reality is there will be a lot of clearing happening. However, the greatest infections must be looked at first. They are most urgent. Just like a wound will secrete pus, and the more ugly truths hidden beneath the broken skin. Just as the body must go through fevers and trembling stress, so also society has to go through these uglier phases of what essentially is humanity healing and human evolution. One thing that a lot of people who are of great empathy tend to forget is that they are not the saviors of Earth or the saviors of society. Their only responsibility is to save themselves, to honor who they are, to find their authentic version of self, and to express so in creative ways. Once this happens, everything else falls into place. Yes, even at the top of hierarchy and political power, these echoes are of energetic frequencies that cannot be stopped, that will ripple out into institutions, into minds, and into paradigms that were thought unmovable in the last 2,000 and 3,000 years. Why has the world become so corrupt? It has always been so. It is only now that this truth comes forth to be seen, acknowledged, and then released and transmuted. So do not condemn humanity. The next 5 to 10 years will increase their enlightenment. Knowledge pieces will come through that were deemed often conspiratorious in nature, or even fantastical or fictional. And many of these truths will further destroy these very traditional institutions across society. Now, why specifically talk about the United States? Just because a lot of these channeling messages talk about the United States, understand that a lot of these truths are happening across the world in other countries as well. However, when a channel speaks in a specific language, the language carries a frequency in and of itself. In fact, language carrying frequency is of such great power that oftentimes when channeled beings come through individuals, they speak in accents. And this is not to ridicule the energy that comes through, but because this accent, wherever it stems from, carries the frequency imprint of that specific language, tribe, or culture, and is brought into English or translated into English to carry the English frequency as well. When these messages reach ears who speak and hear English, there's a certain amount of knowledge that transitions into these individuals' bodies. It is also a reason as to why sometimes when you listen to music that you do not understand, or watch movies whose language you cannot translate into English, but you have a moment where you feel goosebumps, or you have a moment where you shed a tear, or you have a moment of elation and bliss, understand that yes, it might be the beauty of that specific moment in the film, or it might be the complexity of the sound in that specific song, but also it is the language and the culture that carries a specific frequency of truth within. That is why please do not take to heart that a lot of these channels that you see across YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok seem to only be speaking about the United States or the Western world. Note that each language carries frequency. This one, for example, has channeled in Spanish as well, and the frequency there is different to what she carries and must say in the English language. As you will see in the next 5 to 10 years, language will become more and more unified. Also due to progress with AI and how quickly it will be able to translate language for you all. Therefore, it is simply a consequence of humanity unifying its consciousness. People will start understanding each other more, almost telepathically. The beauty of the next 5 to 10 years is that as darkness rises, so much more does light rise as well. As wars continue to ravage lands, so will also humanity awaken to what it does not want. And people will rise and people will take responsibility and stop fearing those who make these atrocious decisions and crimes. It is of great importance to understand that when one focuses on evil or bad and suffers it, one also imbues it with more strength. Your creative power must be used differently. Focus on what you want instead. Focus on your own happiness and joy. Yes, be informed, but do not be obsessed with becoming informed of the evils out in the world. Instead, find ways to improve the lives of those amongst you, to improve your own life, to be more authentically you. The more you do so, the easier the journey of the next 5 to 10 years will be. And as knowledge and revelation comes to the forefront and humanity understands that it is not alone in this universe, it is not non-spiritual, it is a soul and a frequency. As humanity reaches this understanding, all these institutions, including monetary and bank systems, will fall, not in tragic, fire-burning ways, but simply in the blink of an eye, becoming baseless, becoming purposeless, there being no more attention on these institutions. And once this is achieved, they lose their power and their grip on humanity, organically, easily, simply, like breathing. We understand that to some this may seem incredulous. How could these age-long institutions not maintain their power? They must be brought down with violence, with revolutions, with arson, with blackmail. Use their own weapons against them. And while we say that at the grander picture of things, in the grand design of things, yes, these revolutions will lead to some sort of change, but in the end, what actually tips over that last domino is people taking responsibility for their own lives. And while that may manifest in some ways as a revolution or a guerrilla or many other ways in which you have fought reigning powers, understand this: the greatest power lies in the individual and what they do to honor themselves and to honor others. The other thing that we, the archetypal energy of Hermes, the reader of timelines, wish to express is that each and every one will go through certain timelines that are most beneficial to their growth. Do not resist when lessons come your way. You will see that these contrasts only enter your life for you to understand what you do not want and to choose what you do want instead. These are just messengers and not curses following you. These are not cycles of unending pain. These are simply moments of clarity asking you, will you choose differently this time? Take responsibility for your lives. If you do not like your life, change it. Discipline yourself until it has changed. Bring those habits of the mind running rampant and self-destructiveness back in order. Find ways to become one with you again instead of the separate versions you have created so you could survive the ugliness of this world. And while many of these separate versions of you were necessary and helpful in helping you get through moments of great trauma and pain, understand this: it is also your mission to unify everything back into oneness and to find the highest timeline for yourself that you can walk with ease instead of with pain. For suffering in itself has been programmed into humanity as necessary for growth, but understand this growth does not have to happen with suffering. It does not have to happen through suffering. So how can you change this in your own lives? One simple way is to reach out and ask for help from your personal team, the God that you choose to honor, from your guardian angels, from your ancestors. Speak out loud. Help me, assist me. Allow me to walk a path in which I can grow with ease, in which I can grow with peace and joy and not suffering. I want a different reality. I want to mature in a way that shows that pain must not be necessary in every scenario of expansion. Now, do people grow in spite of pain? Yes. Oftentimes because of pain, also yes. But remember, again, with the human evolution incoming, these things will no longer be necessary. These frictions and tensions will no longer be needed in a world where humanity has understood its purpose and its search for the answers within. So as you go through the next 5 to 10 years, we encourage you to find ways to get to know yourselves. Counseling, therapy, personality tests, movies, leisure, pastimes, and hobbies. Hanging out with individuals that you actually like and appreciate, rather than those that you feel like you must hang out with. Find ways to vibrate at your highest frequency, and you will see that even if the next 5 to 10 years are filled with chaos in the external world, your internal world will become quieter and more stable, and yes, in the end, even more joyous, with deep inner peace and knowing that you are in control of your own reality, and therefore will be able to ripple that goodness out into the highest hierarchies of political, banking, and educational or faith systems. We thank you for your attention. We give you great blessings from the spiritual side. We are excited to see you get to know yourselves. We appreciate your attention, and we bid you farewell. Goodbye.